Hello. Hello, hello. That's weird. Hello? Hopefully, I am sounding pretty good. But hello, everybody. We'll get started shortly. Just kind of still settling in a little bit, making sure everything's working great. But hope you guys are all doing well on this. Well, I don't know what time it is for people, but this new stream time session at 12 o'clock today. So, yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Streaming at 12. It feels... I mean, it's obviously not different. We're still going to be doing the same thing as usual, but it just feels a little bit different. But hello for all of you guys who are able to make it to today's stream. Hello, and hello, Vin. Glad you're able to join. It feels like it's been a while since I've had you on my as my mod for my stream. But glad you're back to modding my streams. I'm doing not too bad. I mean, you know, it's 12 o'clock. It feels like the start of the day in a way. I'm like a night. I feel like what artist is not a night owl? So, you know, day starts later, but then lasts later into the night. I don't know. Finally a stream that's not at night in my country. Yeah, I think that's kind of why we're experimenting a little bit with the time shift. Well, I don't know if experimenting is the right word, but we're trying it out and seeing how it goes, how it fits. So yeah, this 12 o'clock time, hopefully we catch maybe cast a wide net around so that we can stream to a good amount of you guys. But yeah, it'll be kind of cool. Glad you guys are able to join us, especially I know for a lot of maybe like European time zone people, maybe people even in like the Asia area kind of thing, Eastern Europe maybe. Obviously for all the North American people, it's going to be around like maybe lunchtime or a little bit earlier and everything if you're on the West Coast. But yeah. So sup, hello everybody. Yeah, right now on my screen, this is just just leaving a piece from one of my classes here. I thought this one turned out not too bad, so I was like, you know what, I'll have this as like my screen image for now while people are hopping in and joining. But welcome. Glad you're able to join the stream. Yeah, seems like we got a few good amount of people kind of hopping in and everything, so I guess we'll get started. Just gonna move some things around. Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to our Wing Canvas stream today. My name is Josh and I'm one of the instructors here at Wing Canvas. If you don't know who we are at Wing Canvas, our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So join us for free live stream lessons on YouTube every week and level up your skills with our community of art nerds. And we're more than just a YouTube channel, we're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping artists turn their passion into income. And a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you'd like to dive deeper, join our Discord to access stream notes and demos, exclusive artworks, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. You can come connect with your fellow art nerds and get inspired. So yeah, that's our little opening kind of bit, but yeah, glad you guys are able to join us. And for today, as you can kind of see on the title of today's stream, we are going to be doing an art cover. Now, the challenge for today is that I'm going to be having to do both a book cover and a Spotify, and I was trying to think of like, oh, what's an interesting way where I can like do kind of the two at the same time. And I think maybe the best way that I could do that is I'm going to tackle it first as a book cover, but then I'm going to maybe keep in mind that I'm going to condense it into a more square-like format so that it's almost kind of like imagine if it got turned into an audiobook and you could listen to the audiobook on Spotify. So I'll kind of draw it out as to what that means, but if you guys don't know, covers, they're they're quite complex. Well, they're not too complex, but there are a few good things to kind of keep in mind before you just kind of go right in and dive into it. And I'll use this as an example as to how to kind of consider or think about covers. But before we jump into this, before every oops, before every stream, we do a little art challenge. So it's kind of like to shout out our I guess Discord members or Discord community that is out there participating. And if you don't know, on Discord every month there is an art challenge going on, and the art challenge usually coincides with the first letter of every month. Now it was like the end of October, so there hasn't been any new submissions for this, but I thought it would be kind of like a good way to end off the I don't know. I know it's not October, but kind of end off October. There should be a new challenge coming in soon, but the last month's art challenge for October was oddballs and oddities, and I thought there was a few cool pieces left that didn't get their time to shine in our stream spotlight. So again, if you'd like to have your pieces kind of I don't know, spotlighted on our stream, be sure to check out what our art challenge is for every month. It's a new one every month, and you'll have the whole month to kind of submit pieces, and you might have a chance to get your piece spotlighted in one of our live streams. So for today, the first one I thought I'd just quickly spotlight is one by Buttons. Just really cool blob character. I really like all the different shapes that are there. I like that there's this like more simplified kind of cartoonier version of it, and then there's a little bit more of like a high def rendered version. But I thought that it looked really cool. There's like the shine, the gradation on it looks really nice, and then I like that there's some like different variations on the outfit. So yeah, really cool stuff. Buttons, love to see it. Then the next one is by Tricks here, and again, I thought this was like a really cool, neat little character creature design here. Really love the shapes and the kind of lack of line works, and even if there are line works, it's kind of almost in the same tone or color as the fill color, so you don't really see it too much. But yeah, I really love the shape. I love the nose, just the shape of the nose and the curvature and just how it all comes together. And I just realized this now, like how the eyes kind of pop out of the side of the head. But yeah, really awesome stuff. Love the creature, love how the shape of it looks. And so yeah, thank you Tricks for submitting. And then lastly, the last one is, this is the latest one, October 31st, so right on Halloween. There's like a nice submission here by Mia. And yeah, it's just kind of a torn up little doll here and done in traditional. So really cool piece here. Really love just like the line work, the cross hatching. Cross hatching is not easy to do, but I think you did a pretty good job of it, and I think it works really, really well for the Halloween kind of theme. So yeah, and thank you everybody for submitting your pieces. And again, as always, remember that every month we have a new art challenge, and if you would like to participate that, just remember to join our Discord. That is how you can participate, but also be updated as to what the art challenge itself is, and you might have a chance for us to spotlight you on our streams, just like I'm doing right now. So thank you Tricks, thank you Mia, thank you Buttons for submitting. These are some really awesome pieces, so thank you. Okay, so we'll jump right into it. Yeah, I'll use this really quickly to kind of just highlight roughly how or what are some things I'm going to try to keep in mind when I'm doing the art cover. And in an art cover, maybe I'll draw it as well so I can kind of mark it down for you guys. Art covers, especially when it's books, video games, album covers, there's a few things to keep in mind, which is the composition. So unlike illustration where you can kind of just do whatever you, well, obviously there's still composition that you have to keep in mind, but you can kind of just draw whatever you want, and you can fill up the entire page as much as you want and just let the image speak for itself. But a lot of the times when it comes to covers, you have to keep in mind of where the title is going to be. So maybe I'll write it here. Let's say maybe make it a bit bigger here. So book, or I guess we're doing an art cover. So art cover. And I guess these are just like things to keep in mind. So the first thing is text. Now, obviously, not every album cover or not every book cover or album cover is that needs to have text. It doesn't necessarily have to have it, but a lot of them do. And so text, keeping in mind of like if the artist wants text, if the artist wants or like the writer, the author, the musician, if they want text, you have to keep it as a core part of making sure that it relates to the whole entire composition. If you're just like, oh well, I just want the the image to speak for itself. If that's what the client wants, or that's what the musician or author or artist wants, then that's totally fine. But text is a really key part of that, and you need to make sure that it fits in the composition. So fits the composition. And I would always say that make sure that it's clear and legible. Now, obviously, I'm saying all of this, but there's always a little bit of wiggle room. So there's always a little bit of like, this is like with a little bit of asterisk. Like, again, if the artist goes like, no, I want it to be some crazy text and it's not super legible, then I guess that's totally fine. But these are some like pretty like safe things to stick with. And then the next thing is that you want to make sure that the image and the text work together. And I'll show you with the Sifu cover that I did what I mean by that. For example, in this cover here, if I had drawn this, like, this is the entire composition that I need to work with. So let's say I was designing a video game art cover for the game of Sifu, and I had this, and I could only work with the constraints of what a PS5 game box size is, then I can't change that. I can't be like, oh, actually, can I make it a bit longer? Can I make it a bit wider? I have to stick with how big or how wide the PS5 box is going to be. And so what that means too is that when I do the illustration on the cover, it has to also leave some room for the text. I can't have a really big illustration and afterwards go like, oh, whoops, I need to put the PS5 logo at the top, and then, oh, whoops, I need to put the Sifu logo somewhere on the box. And so the illustration didn't accommodate for both the PS5 logo and the Sifu logo. And so you have to keep in mind of like how the text and the illustration are going to work together, or else if you just draw the illustration and then decide to worry about the text afterwards, it's not really going to work out so well. And then vice versa, if you only think about the text but then you're also like, oh, I really want to do some illustration as well, well, that also doesn't work, because now your illustration is going to feel like it's just tacked on, or it's just the last thing that you decide to put onto your cover. So you want to really make sure that the image and text work together. And then lastly, you want to think or keep in mind of tangents. Now, if you've been a part of Jessie's streams, you'll know that this is one that she and I'm pretty sure like every one of us loves to harp on, which is that be aware of tangents. And in this case, for like covers, tangents, I would say, pop up the most in covers around the edges of the cover. So that would be like if you put a person's face like right over here, and their shoulder like just aligns with the side of the cover. That would be like, if you were artistically doing that, maybe you could argue it, but for the most part, I would say that people would kind of be like, why is that put so odd? It draws a little bit too much attention. Either what you could do is, still have the person maybe off to the side, but maybe cut them off a little bit, maybe have only half of their face showing up, or maybe have like shift them over just a little bit. And if you wanted them to be covered, maybe have them covered by like a wall or something. Maybe something like that. So then this way it doesn't feel too odd. There's a little bit of breathing room. There's a little bit of some like space. So it doesn't immediately just grab the viewer's attention and eye right to the side of the cover. So this is what we call tangent points. It kind of, it's not, it's sometimes like this really small little mistake that we don't sometimes account for. And it ends up drawing the viewer's eye over there. And it's like, well, why is my eye going there? Why is my attention going to this part of the cover? So you really want to keep in mind of that. And sometimes it's not related to the character itself, but it could be like small elements like the shoe, the edge of like the jacket maybe, or even just a design element that gets cut off or intersects or is aligned with something just in a very odd way. So just make sure there's a little bit of overlap with your different objects and elements so that there's a little or that you just are able to avoid tangents. And so again, I'll bring it back to here. Now this piece is I'm not exactly done with this piece, but there's a lot of things happening. It's quite chaotic, and it's one of those like montage cover illustration types where I'm putting all the characters together and mashing them all into one spot. And the chaotic aspect of it is part of the composition, but you'll notice that I'm giving every character a little bit of breathing room and that they don't intersect or block into each other or cover each other in an odd way. They have enough space where their face or their facial features are legible enough, and there's not some weird crossover or cutting off point. And it's the same thing with the buildings as well. Like I'm making sure that there's a little bit of space along the sides, and if the buildings do go off into the side later on, I will make sure that it goes completely off the page and it doesn't just stop right on the side. And the same thing is with the text for Sifu as well. I'm making sure that Sifu either, I don't know, this could change down the road, either it hovers here, or if I do want it to overlap the characters, I'd have it really, really obviously overlap the characters' faces. So that's like an option there. And so again, it helps to avoid tangents and these really weird cutoff points. So like for example, what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't have the text Sifu sit right on top of this guy's head, nor would I have it touch right at the bottom of the PS5 kind of bar. They have this like white bar at the top to hold the text PS5. Like I wouldn't have Sifu right at the bottom here, like touching it, or else again, it creates this weird tangent point that just feels odd. So again, keeping in mind of these three things is hopefully it'll help to it's I guess it kind of looks like that. It's supposed to be Sifu, like Sifu, not the other one. But I can see how it's like that. I guess I'll have to change the text design. But yeah, these are like three main things that I would kind of keep in mind at the very least. Like I know these are very like conceptual aspects of how to design a cover, but these are very core things that I think anybody can kind of use and pick up for if they're designing a cover. And the reason why I'm bringing and spending so much time on this is because I've seen a lot of students mess up, especially on this part of like their design. They'll be so caught up on the illustration and like the composition of the illustration on the box that you can kind of tell that the text was either put in last minute or they just didn't kind of think through exactly like how the text and the image could work together if they need to work together. And then the last thing is like I always see tangents on students' pieces. So just keep this in mind. Always check your pieces before you commit to the final drawing to just make sure you don't have any tangents and that everything is sitting with one another nicely. So yeah, cool. That's basically the notes. So right now what I'm going to do is we're going to start coming up with some concepts and some rough ideas for a cover. Now, I was trying to think of flipping your canvas is also a really good way of checking your composition. So before we go into the final thing, the first thing I always do to, one, be able to check whether these three things work is to come up with a rough. Now, or rough, and maybe I'll call it like thumbnail as well. Now, thumbnails and roughs are meant to be really, really small drawings. They're Literally, they're called thumbnails because you want to keep them not as literally as small as your thumbnail. That might be a little bit too small. Some people like to work that small. I think I remember talking to Faye one time, and I think she said that she likes working with thumbnails literally maybe about like the size of your upper digit of your thumb. So that would be like really, really small. I don't like to work on thumbnails that small. I like to work with them around maybe the size of your index finger. So something that's kind of like this. So we're going to start off maybe with a composition about this big. And the story that I actually want to do or use for our illustration is going to be for Frankenstein. So if you guys didn't know, recently Guillermo del Toro released a movie called Frankenstein, and it was out in theaters for a little bit. I recently watched it. I thought it was really, really good. If you like Guillermo del Toro's stuff, I think you would absolutely love it. Maybe it's not one of his best work, but I think he also did a really good job of adapting the story of Frankenstein and making it quite faithful to the book itself. So I thought like Frankenstein would be kind of cool to do, and you know, it's a book already, and it got turned into a movie, and I can kind of, it's popular enough that I'm pretty sure there's like audiobooks of it, so we can kind of get two birds with one stone essentially. Okay, I see you got a question by Bambus here. Josh, did you answer my question about what free animation software do you recommend? The one that I'm using currently right now is Krita. So if you want to try some animation, Krita has a pretty good animation aspect component to it, and it's pretty robust. You can do quite a lot with it. If you're like not too sure how to use it, we do have like a tutorial video on how the animation part of Krita works and how you can kind of get familiar with it. There are a few things that you have to learn obviously before you can just jump right in and start animating, but I do think that it is robust enough that it's pretty it accommodates for all your needs, all your animation needs. I know what are some, flip a clip I think is what some of my students have told me about, in terms of like, is it free though? I don't know if it's free, but flip a clip has been brought to my attention. What else? Autodesk Sketchbook. They used to have a free version. I think you can, if you scrounge around well enough, you can technically still find the free version of Sketchbook. But I feel like Autodesk is making it a little bit harder to find. But if you can find the free version of Sketchbook, they also do technically have an animation, almost more flipbook style animation in Sketchbook. That's also kind of easy to use. But Krita is honestly, I think, the best one. You just have to take a little bit of time to just sit down and learn it and be familiar with how it works. Because I think that's like the biggest learning curve. But yeah. Oh, Flip a Clip is not free. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't remember because I never used it myself. I just remember students bringing up. It's like, oh, I use Flip a Clip for animation. But okay. So if I guess a free one, then Krita. Krita's your best bet. Other than that, I don't really know of any other one that would give you a free animation software. Honestly, Krita is so robust. There's so much that you can do with it. I do know that if your computer might not have enough memory, or if it's not good enough, it might be a little bit slow. It might chug a little. But honestly, Krita, once you understand how its animation components work, it's really, really easy. Yeah, so Ray is someone who's using it, and yeah, you just honestly have to just dedicate a day or two to just sit down, watch a video or two, whether it's ours or others, to help expand your knowledge of how to use Krita's animation component. It's really just like pretty straightforward afterwards, and you don't even have to get too deep in it. I think like just learning how the different frames work, how to just get it going, is already good enough. You don't have to learn any of like the really complex parts of animation in Krita. But yeah. Oh, you're already using it. Okay, great. Yeah. Oh, cover manga covers as well, or manga covers a little bit different. I would say that this information here, it can cover most things. Haha, no pun intended. But manga covers, I feel like maybe are a little bit different. They're a little bit more illustration and scenery or action focused, whereas the one we're doing is, well, and I guess in a way it's kind of similar. There's a lot of similarities and crossovers, but I feel like the vibe and kind of tone of manga covers are a little bit different. Same thing with like graphic novel covers. Graphic novel covers are I guess it's more just a style preference, but everything that I've written here, you can apply it to mangas as well. Just it's because it's basically just good composition, making sure that the text and the illustration work together. But yeah, going back to it, we're gonna do a few thumbnails. We might honestly, due to time, just do one thumbnail, just as a really quick sketch and rough. And then maybe I'll also figure out like how I would compose it for a Spotify album cover. And but yeah, we're gonna be doing it for Frankenstein. Because of how little time we have about like what, an hour and a half left. Intended pun. Intend the pun. Yeah. I'm gonna try to not make it too complicated. If you guys have never joined one of my streams before, you'll know that I tend to overcomplicate the illustration. So I'm gonna try to think of one that's not too complicated, but that I can kind of finish easily. Yeah. I was thinking maybe just drawing like a face over here, because then, so what I'm trying to think about is that I want to make sure that the composition and the illustration also works for a Spotify cover art. So, which means that the text and the image has to work both in a kind of longer portrait format as well as a square. So I feel like what that means is like I can't have too much detail or complexity around the edges of my illustration. Most of the focus is going to be around the middle, around the center, so that I can translate it and move it over to a square format a little bit easier, and I don't have to do too much like cropping or moving things around. I can easily just like change the two. I'm actually going to try to maybe spend a bit more time on the text. Okay, I think I got a concept down. I love drawing kind of profile views, so I feel like what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with the good old Bob Dylan style of that famous illustration portrait graphic design poster. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there's a really famous Bob Dylan poster out there, and I think what we'll do is we'll kind of have these elements here. Maybe we'll have like parts of the skull showing up. Don't worry, I won't make it too gruesome, but we'll have it just like sitting here. Just a profile view angle of the face. And if you guys have never read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, I do recommend just checking it out, because there's a really great review actually out there that I think it breaks it down really well by Dan Murrell. He's like a go-to YouTube reviewer of mine, and I think he kind of said it best, which is that popular media and mainstream media has kind of warped the way we think Frankenstein is supposed to be. Like this kind of like grotesque monster that's like all assembled and jarring and weird and everything. But if you read Mary Shelley's book on Frankenstein, that was not really necessarily her intent. And if you watch Guillermo del Toro's oh, am I off? No. Yeah, if you watch Guillermo del Toro's kind of movie on Frankenstein, you'll be like, wait, why is Frankenstein kind of like good looking? And that's because like the monster itself is supposed to be not necessarily like super grotesque, but it's grotesque because it's been kind of assembled and put together. But other than that, it's supposed to try to imitate and look like a normal human. So I'm kind of gonna go for that. We'll maybe make him not look like Jacob Elordi or something. So for example, in the movie Frankenstein's monster, they chose Jacob Elordi as the monster, and some people were kind of like, why is the monster like kind of good looking? So I don't think we'll go that route necessarily, but we'll go for maybe like a more just regular looking person, but we'll leave maybe like a bit of the head open. We'll give him a more normal face rather than the kind of, I think, stereotypical expectation of what the monster is supposed to look like. We'll still give him a pretty big jaw, you know. And maybe we'll give him a cleft chin. And whatnot. Oh. Let's see. Planning to watch. It's a good movie. I think the Guillermo del Toro did a really good job. Like I said, I think if you personally enjoy like Frankenstein, then I think you will also enjoy the way Guillermo del Toro went about doing the movie. Maybe we'll give him like a scar here or something. What I kind of liked about it is that there's some really cool cutout parts for like Frankenstein's kind of body parts. So I like that it was like very segmented and chopped up and everything. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be just like the brain or something. We'll draw through the thumbnail sketch. So again, if nobody's ever bothered trying to draw with a thumbnail sketch before, essentially you're just trying to figure out the composition. You're trying to figure out all the necessary information that you need about your drawing that you're going to have to need before you go and dive into the detailed parts of it. So what I'm trying to do here is just really quickly, if you guys didn't know, this is how big the image is. So I'm drawing with a really, well, not like super small brush, but kind of a big brush. And I'm only drawing in this really tiny component. And then once we're done, we're going to like stretch it out and we're going to make it really, really big. So my kind of intent for this is that there's going to be a lot of maybe like syringe needles. Maybe there'll be like, and then this will be like the brain. We're not going to do an anatomical brain. I kind of just want to capture this flow that looks like things are being inputted and infused into his mind and into his brain. And then we're going to mostly work on like the text. So we're just going to have a simple image here. I might actually make it more textural and more line working like, and then we're gonna spend a lot of time with like the text. So we're just gonna put these like pins. So if you've watched the movie for Guillermo del Toro's film for Frankenstein, he did this really cool thing where it's like it's almost like it makes sense. It's a doctor. So Victor is kind of like putting all these pins into the monster's brain, and then he's got these like pliers stretching out the skin and the bones to assemble it. But yeah, I don't know if this is gonna be weird, but we're gonna maybe make this kind of look like a hand. So when it comes to book covers and whatnot, storytelling is a big part of it. It's always this nice, you want to try to find a nice balance between kind of implying and getting the viewers to understand what the story is, but at the same time you don't want to spoil anything. So it's like you're trying to convey to the viewer what the story and the tone possibly potentially is, but you also don't want to sell too much of the story. Sorry, I had to go grab my mirror because I'm realizing like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll have like a hand here. So if you don't know anything about the story, after a certain point, after Victor kind of creates the monster, he lets his sister-in-law or soon-to-be sister-in-law discovers the monster, and she kind of finds the humanness in the creature or in the monster. And not that she necessarily falls in love with the monster, but she finds a certain kind of fascination and almost maternal uh, understanding of needing to take care and teach the monster how to be human in a way. So I'm thinking about maybe doing something like that with like the hand. Not showing the other person here, but just like a sense of like both sides. One part of the maternal aspect of Elizabeth, the caring side that is required to make the monster kind, but then also the scientific part, the gruesome, grotesque aspect of Frankenstein and his monster. Also, a fun fact, I don't know like if everybody knows this, but the Frankenstein's not the name of the monster, which was kind of interesting. I didn't know that until like in high school when we had to read the book and my teacher was like, "Fun fact, the monster is not Frankenstein. That's the name of the doctor." And we're all like, "Wait, what?" Well, I mean, I was like, "What?" That's neat. I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. So we're gonna just draw a little bit of the fingers, the fingies here. Gonna try to make it as delicate as I can. There might be a little bit of tangent point here that I was talking about beforehand with the hand. So I might just shift it over and shrink the overall image down a little bit afterwards. But yeah, I wanted the fingers to be a bit more feminine, a little bit more dainty like, to kind of show again that care for the monster that Victor doesn't have for the monster, but Elizabeth, his like Victor Frankenstein's kind of sister-in-law had, that the monster kind of needs. And I think that was kind of like a crucial, interesting point by Guillermo del Toro, but I also think it was a theme in the book as well, just the concept that like sometimes it's, you know, we have to also put in a level of care into things and show things love and not neglect things in order to, you know, things aren't monsters inherently. We can make things kind of like better if we treat things well. So I thought that was kind of like a neat point, sticking point to the book when in the book. Am I? Oh, is it? Josh is using himself as reference. Always using myself as reference. All the characters you see, they're all me. I mean that it's like half true. Part of it's true. Not all the time, but sometimes it's true. And obviously you gotta practice what you preach, because it's also stuff that I look for in my own pieces as well. Like if something's not working right, I'll be like, okay, why didn't it work right, kind of thing. I have to kind of also figure out what it is. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I've missed a few things. I know that some people have been commenting on chat, so maybe I'll just catch up. Why is the monster a Chad? You know, he's supposed to be kind of like good looking in the book, so that's why. Vampire fit. You know, it didn't cross my mind when I was thinking about like what to draw. I was like, oh, vampire. I would have loved to draw vampire. That would have been cool. But yeah, I'm using Krita. I've been only using Krita for the past, I think, I want to say since I started at Wing Canvas. So about like 3 years, I've been using Krita so far for everything basically almost. I tried dabbling into a little bit of Rebel and a little bit into Clip Studio, but overall I just feel like Krita hits or checks off everything that I want in a drawing program that does everything that I want but also feels right with how I draw. So, yeah. In case you guys wanted a visual right now, Josh is currently holding his face, looking in the mirror while drawing. How'd you know? I did kind of do that like very briefly. I'm not holding my face because that's not really quite easy to do, but I am. I did have to hold. I am putting my hand in the position of how I would like hold a face. uh, oh, cool! You're animating while during the stream. That's awesome. Nice. Using a mirror as an artist can be helpful if you want a 3D pose of what you're drawing. Yeah, I always recommend this. Get a mirror, just prop it in front of yourself or onto the side so you can quickly just kind of uh, get a quick reference without needing to always go on the internet or find the perfect reference, because you can just kind of get a mirror. Yeah. Let's see. Hi, best boy. How are you doing? Is this in reference to the monster? I don't know if I'm best boy. I love Van Helsing's portrayal of vampires, werewolves, and also Frankenstein's monster. Nice, nice. I know I'm best boy. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm best boy, but what tablet did you use throughout your digital art journey? Oh, that's a good question. I can answer that while I'm drawing. I first started off with. Yeah, I've shared this kind of story like before. Believe it or not, when I started drawing, or believe it or not, digital art tablets aren't that new, or the way that we're kind of so familiar with art tablets now is much more newer than we're familiar with it today. So there were art tablets for sure, but I feel like not in the way that we're used to it now. So back then, if you wanted a screen tablet, they were fairly expensive. I mean, they're fairly expensive now, but there weren't too many options for screen tablets. So if you wanted a screen tablet, you really, really had to splurge. And obviously for me, and also I would say like most families, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to, let my son, I don't know if we're so sure about like, the whole art thing. And so like, I don't know if we want to splurge on like a tablet and whatnot. But so yeah, the first tablet that I started off with was actually just the was it the Wacom Intuos? So it was a screenless tablet. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it did everything, but the problem is that it has no screen. So drawing, it was a little kind of finicky. But not only that, but if you guys have never drawn with a screenless tablet before, it takes a little bit of getting used to, because the hand-eye coordination part of it feels a little bit off, even though you can still kind of play around with the screen size and everything, but even then it'll feel a little bit off. So the Intuos was the first tablet that I ever used. That one was pretty cool. It was pretty good. I'm realizing I'm running out of space. That's why I drew it on a different layer so I can change the size. And then I actually stuck with the Intuos all the way throughout my entire university career. So I had it for about 6 years. And then during COVID, my friend was like, hey, I don't use a tablet at all, like her screen tablet. So she had a Wacom screen, like one of those screen tablets. And I think at face value, that tablet that she gave me would have been like $1,200. And then, but she was like, hey, I had like barely used this, but it's technically quote unquote used. Do you want it for like $600? I'll sell it to you for half the price. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll take that. I'm not gonna turn down a half off screen tablet. So then from that point on, I was like using a screen tablet for pretty much most of COVID. And then I think last year, a year ago, Faye was like, hey, XP Pen is kind of offering us a tablet to use. And so do you want it? I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, I'll use a tablet. And it was kind of different because it had like buttons on the side. So that was kind of neat. And I've never had a tablet with buttons. It sounds so corny to say that, but yeah, I'd never had buttons before. So right now I've only had 3 tablets ever in my whole entire life. I've had the Wacom Intuos for like about 6 years, and then I had the Wacom, I guess I don't know what it was called, but the one with the screen, it was like the 15-inch Pro, I think is what it was called. And then now I have the XP Pen 15.6 Pro, I think. Not their newest model, but I would say it's kind of like their flagship kind, where it's like not too expensive, but it's not like obviously screen tablets, they're gonna be expensive no matter what. But I would say like overall it's not bad. But yeah, those have been the tablets that I have been using. I know it sounds like I'm really old, but the reason why I'm saying that is because tablets have gotten so much more accessible lately. Where like back then, it sounds like it's so long ago, but it's really not that long ago. But tablets were not as cheap or accessible or affordable in the way that we're used to it now. Now we're like spoiled. We're like, wow, I can get this tablet for like $300, or I can get this tablet for like $700, like at like brand new for $700. A screen tablet, that's crazy. That's unheard of back then. But now it's like it's kind of like the norm, I think. Also, so going into this text, obviously gotta use like old school kind of gothic, almost goosebump. I realize I'm doing more of like a goosebump style of text here. I'm kind of going off of like just kind of improvising. I'm not like trying to replicate a certain text exactly. I'm just kind of going off of memory on how I might approach this text. We're going to shrink the text afterwards because I realize like we do not have enough space, so I will shrink the text afterwards because yeah, there's no space. There's no space for this. But I did take a class on typography, so I have a little bit of idea as to like how to go about doing font sometimes, but not all the time. It's not perfect. I'm pretty sure if like an actual graphic designer or typeface designer came in, it was like, no, I wouldn't design it like that. No, I wouldn't space out the letters like that. Probably. Sure, I'm not like the best at it, but this is like a pretty good take on it. I'm gonna stretch it out and let's just shrink it a little bit. I wanted it to be a little bit long, so kind of gothic, but not too gothic. Okay, so this is pretty good. I think we'll go off of this. We'll use this as our template. So we'll work with the book version first, and then after the book version, we'll change the composition so we can figure out the tablet one. Actually, I think a better idea is I'm going to let me actually just change this. Okay, I'm going to duplicate. I'm gonna plan it out now, actually. So I'm gonna try to figure out where the composition would best fit. So I don't have to figure it out, and I can kind of get some issues figured out immediately. So this is what I mean by making sure that the text and the illustration work with one another. So because the square format of the Spotify cover is a little bit finickier, I'm gonna have to kind of make sure and just check that compositionally things do make sense before committing to it. But I think so far it looks pretty good. I do want to have maybe the face just a little bit bigger. In this case, I don't mind the text overlapping like the face. Whereas in the book one, I do want to keep an eye on it. So this is going to be our book cover. And you can clearly tell there's a lot more breathing room. There's a little bit more space. And then this one is going to be an album cover. I talk like I'm born in the 60s. Jeez, I don't sound like I've used that that old. uh, born in the 80s when I got a job. Yeah. No, the reason why I like to give context to this because I think a lot of people nowadays kind of think like, oh yeah, just get a tablet. Oh, what tablet are you using? And it's like it sounds so easy to get a tablet, but back then it was like either you go all in on a screen tablet or you kind of work within your budget and you get a screenless tablet. And I was one of those where it's like we just got a screenless tablet. Most of my friends had a screenless tablet, and then maybe like one of my friends had a screen tablet, and that was it. Which is like again crazy to think about that not a lot of people had screen tablets, but now they do. Now it's just like everybody has a screen tablet. Can you show how to draw male body? Maybe next time. Unfortunately I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to show you how to draw the male kind of figure. But maybe another time, maybe there would be a stream where that we might have that could potentially cover those topics. But that is a good kind of topic to cover. Maybe we could schedule that in for one of those future streams. Used is always the best option. Yeah, honestly, like the one she gave me was working perfectly fine. I still have it technically, but I don't use it because it's also. It's a little wonky in some points, but yeah. Frankie about to spit some fire in that album. It does look like a rap album or something. And it didn't work well long term, but it was definitely good for starting off. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it. It's like you kind of make do with it and you kind of get familiar and used to how it works. But yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other thing too, is that we're now so used to like all these different tablet brands like Huion, XP Pen, Wacom obviously, and I'm pretty sure there's like other ones as well, but back then it was like really just either Wacom and I think Bamboo. I don't remember if Bamboo was like another brand or if it was like an offshoot brand of Wacom, but there was really just Wacom. Like if you wanted a tablet, it was just Wacom, whatever you want to call it. But then now there's so much competition, there's so many different types of tablets that it's made competition. It's given them a little bit of competition, and so now there's different types. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna start off. Let me try to find the original one. Okay, there we go. Gonna combine these two. Oh, maybe not do that. Just gonna isolate it. There we go. I'm gonna group that. We'll call this the rough. I'm gonna have to organize these later, but for now we'll just keep it like this. I'm gonna bring this all the way to the top. Okay, this one is like the notes. I'm usually gonna label it now, or else I'm gonna have trouble finding everything. It's the album cover. Yeah. Album rough. And this is the book rough. Book rough. Rough book. Okay, sure. And hey, cool. Okay, this is all on the rough side. There we go. Cleaned up my layers. Always recommend students clean up their layers. Having clean layers is always good. Okay, we'll put this one here, maybe. We'll shrink it down a little. Sure, I'll have it like that. Hey, hello. I see some new people joining on. Hello. Glad some of you guys are able to make it. Do I use the default brushes? Yeah, I just use the default brushes on Krita. I don't really use any special fancy brushes or anything. Okay, so now that we have the rough laid down, we really just need to do this one, and then we'll just duplicate it and then crop it down to make it work for the album cover. So in general, this is just all we need. And we have about an hour. I think I should be able to knock it down. We'll just mostly be using line. Well, I'll be using mostly line work to do this. Maybe, I don't think we'll be doing like a full-on painting necessarily, but most of the time is going to be just spent on putting in the line work, getting the text in, and then for the album is just kind of composing it. So yeah, it'll be good. So the first thing I'm gonna block in is the framing of it. So I'm using this brush. I know I shouldn't use this brush, but I like how it looks. I like how kind of chalky it looks, and I do want it to be kind of like, I want it to be blue. I don't know, kind of like a blueprint kind of aesthetic. So I kind of want a dark blue gray background, maybe something like that. I think that's pretty good. Ooh, red looks good. Ooh, maybe I would use red. Okay, yeah, this is our background. And then we'll, yeah, time to get drawing. So, gonna use, oh, what brush to use? That's the question. Yeah, let's kind of use a dark maroon color. Or not maroon. Yeah, kind of like a magenta kind of a type color. I think that would be kind of neat. Let's just try it out. Let's just see how it looks. Maybe a little brighter. And then let's lower this opacity a little bit more. Oops. Maybe not that bright. Not that neon. I don't know. Kind of want to experiment, play around with it a little bit. Get the colors out. I like this kind of more purple kind of colors. Minimalist Josh stuff. Yeah, I love minimalist approach to things. Maybe we can block it off first. Actually, I think maybe we'll do that. So I'm gonna get this. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's my. Ooh, yes. We'll have this too. This would be cool. So if you guys don't know this brush, I think this is in the newer Krita maybe. It's called Hatch Noisy. I love this texture. It almost gives it a bit of like a fingerprint kind of texture to it. It creates a really nice kind of just overall noise to things. So I'm gonna be using it a lot. Let me see. Quick clipping group. Put that here. And we're just gonna lightly brush it over the drawing. Not do anything super noisy, but just have it a little bit here and there. Give it a little bit of some texture, some noise. It's always good to have a little bit of noise on the image, but we'll kind of keep it minimal. Nothing too over the top. I'm just gonna erase some that I feel like is a bit too much. Might be good to do some scumbling here and there. Kind of just roughly putting it in. So this is just gonna be texture noise that gets put on. Do you use a mouse, Josh? No, I'm using a tablet right now. I have never drawn with a mouse before, but hats off to anybody who's able to draw with a mouse. That's awesome. If you can draw with a mouse, hats off to you. Alright. And then maybe we'll just make this overlay. Let's see it. That's a little bit too much. Here, screen. I think it'd be good, and then we can manually lower it. Yeah. Cool. So I'm making it an effect layer, so that it whatever I draw underneath it will kind of blend with it. And then, yeah, you know what? Maybe we won't use like a hot pink magenta, but we'll use like a desaturated like red or something. And we'll just go use my go-to charcoal pencil. And I will get kind of drawing. You guys have any questions while I'm drawing, feel free to chime in, let me know. And I'll try to answer your question as best as I can. Oh, whoops. Put it on the wrong layer. No. So, I love a kind of good, gritty, grungy kind of style. So, I'm going to try to work with a thinner... Maybe we'll try this one. Nah. We'll go with... I mean, I like the good old ballpoint pen. That one's always a good one to work with. But yeah, I always love a good kind of grungy, scratchy line work. So we'll put in a good amount of like texture, kind of mark making, some line breaks here and there. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Okay. Just randomly rate. Always looks great. Oh, thank you, Vin. Yeah. I feel like I haven't seen your stuff in a while, Vin. And for those who don't know, Vin also has like really great line work. I feel like we have kind of somewhat similar art styles, Vin. Not obviously like a one-to-one or exact, but I feel like you have a pretty good line work approach to things as well. Yeah, I've been using currently this brush called Ballpoint Pen, and I've been loving it. It's a new brush, I think, from Krita. It wasn't always there. I don't remember seeing a brush like this in like their previous packs, but I think it's been great so far. It's really worked well for me. Yay. I haven't posted in a while, but yeah, I'm definitely very line-based art. Yeah. Like I think both you and I like to use a lot more focus on like line work and shape. And I remember one time you submitted pieces and you're like, I don't really render much, but do you have any advice on like rendering? And I was like, oh, this looks exactly like how I would approach this. I wouldn't render this either. Which I'm like, I know that that's not like what you were asking for, but I was like, oh, this looks exactly like or similar to how I would do things. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't render this if I were to do this. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. You're just like asking for advice, and I'm like, nah, it looks great. It looks exactly like how I would do it. Under the let's see. Can you help out with my assignments? How long have you been using Krita? For about 3 years now, I think. So I've gotten pretty familiar with it, I would say. Obviously, there's always new things that you can learn from it. So there might be things that you discover or find from it that I've never even found or spotted yet. Because there's just always new things to kind of spot in a software. There's always like so much that you can add and take away and change and adjust in a software that, yeah, not everything is going to be discovered. But yeah, about 3 years now, I would say it's been great. I love Krita. I would always recommend it for anybody who's like maybe new to drawing and is thinking about getting into uh, like drawing and painting digitally. I think Krita is a really good one to start off with if you're not too sure you want to like put in any money into drawing softwares like Clip Studio or Photoshop or whatever that requires a payment. I think if you are not too sure, you're a little bit hesitant, I think Krita is a good one to start off with because it's free for one, which is awesome. But also two, for a free software, it actually has quite a lot of stuff in it. So I'm always like, you know what? If you want to check it out, Krita is a good one to start off with. Take in animation for career option. Oh, that's cool. I think I need a downgrade. But oh yeah, in terms of which Discord or which Krita this is, I honestly don't know. I think I updated it sometime at the beginning of this year, so maybe around like February. Obviously, there's probably have been much more um kind of upgrades since then, but I feel like no matter what, like whatever upgrade or version you are at on Krita, I think will work. Like I don't think you need like one that is like hyper updated or anything. But what the cool thing about them though is that every now and then they'll add like a new brush. So, if you're like, this brush isn't necessarily working for me, I would say keep an eye on their updates because you never know, they might add a new brush every now and then. Oh, I realized I drew the eye way too low. Oops. I want this to be the brow. We'll make the brow a little bit lower so it matches. Trying to create my own brush pack. Does anyone know one? I'm guessing no one. That's cool. I've never tried making my own brush pack, but because I feel like, brushes after a certain point, I'm just kind of like, it's all the same. Or not that they're all the same, but once you find one that works for you, I think you can kind of just rely on the same old one. But hats off to you for anybody wanting to make a brush pack. I don't know. There's something about the old one that I kind of like though. There's like a somberness. I think I missed out on that. I'll just try to follow, or I'm gonna just try to follow this as much as I can. There we go. I think that, well, yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think that looks okay. It looks fine. Don't really remember what this was, but I guess we'll add it in. Oh, cool. The new art challenge, community art challenge is up. Nice. Yeah, for anybody who wants to participate for next time, feel free to go check it out. What about Sketchbook? Sketchbook is good. It just for some reason after I got my XP Pen tablet, I don't know, Sketchbook stopped working. Or like not that it stopped working, but I couldn't control the brush size. So I tried playing around with different settings and everything, but it just wouldn't allow me to go like, yeah, here, this is your brush size. Like I couldn't like have varying weight changes on my brushes. So I was like, okay, well, now I can't use Krita, or I can't use Sketchbook anymore because it just wouldn't for some reason work with the my XP Pen tablet. So I don't know what it was or why it ended up being like that, but yeah. So I just pretty much use Krita at this point. And I don't know also why, but I feel like Sketchbook was also using a lot of memory, which is odd because Sketchbook itself is not very it's not a very like super crazy powerful like app. It's a very straightforward simple app. So I'm actually very surprised that it was using a lot of memory. So it was very odd. It's very interesting. Let's see. Do you know if you can make any brush an eraser? On Krita, yeah. Like basically, if you just toggle on this eraser button at the top, it turns any brush into an eraser as long as it's like a brush. I don't know if it works for an effect brush or like a yeah like those smudging or blending brushes. I feel like it. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but any normal like drawing painting brush, excuse me, if you toggle on the yeah, if you toggle on the eraser function, it turns any brush into an eraser, so it's always kind of cool. Also, this sounds like Stardew Valley. I've never personally played Stardew Valley, but yeah, I was trying when I was looking for songs. Um, I was trying to find songs that I feel like would be chill to listen to while drawing. Not too crazy, but also not too like lulling. Some of them are more on the lulling side, and then some are more on the hyper side. Like right now, I think the track right now is like my most hyper one. But other than that, like most of the tracks I've tried to look for are more chill. Yeah, so I'm just trying to draw kind of like waving matter, or like the brain for how it might like stack. I know that anatomically this is not how the brain actually looks, but just trying to create visual noise, just trying to create some interesting textures and caverns here and loops and spirals that would be kind of cool to just illustrate. But how is everybody doing on this Monday day? Ring. Oh, cool. Nice. Demon Slayer is cool. Just realized there was music playing this whole time. Yeah, I turned it down very, very quiet, so it's not too in your face, I guess. Aesthetic over anatomic, I say. Hey, there you go. Being a lazy student. No, I totally relate. Hopefully not too lazy, though. Gotta do what you gotta do. Anybody have any plans after the stream? Since it's only middle of the day, or at least for us here at in North America, it's the middle of the day. Maybe for others, it's like earlier or later. So maybe you got nothing planned, but yeah, if you guys have any plans you want to share, feel free to. Realize why the hand looks odd is like the placement of the thumb is not quite there. Also, I know that the hand caressing the face right now is not the most natural maybe feeling, but for the interest of time, I think I'm just going to have to make it do with the way the hand is right now. It's not the most natural in how a hand would maybe be positioned, but we'll kind of go with it for now. And the reason why is because the gesture of it might be a little bit off. Not even maybe might be, but I'm pretty sure it's a little it's off. So but yeah, if I had a little bit more time, I would maybe figure out the hand pose a little bit more beforehand, but we'll make do with what it is right now. I think it's for what it is. It's okay. Oops. Love your content. Oh, okay. Thank you, Teddy. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you. I missed that. I missed that comment, but glad you're enjoying the content and the drawing so far. Not too lazy, just bigger dreams than skills. No, I understand. That's totally relatable. Came late today. Can I get the TLDR of the lesson portion? Sure. It was just composition and tangent points. Let's see. Did I put the notes anywhere? I had the notes somewhere, but kind of forgot to put them, kind of mark them. But essentially, it's just what am I gonna say? Um, when you're doing covers, just make sure that your line art and your text, or your illustration and your text, they work together. It's kind of like a big part of drawing. But then also the other thing as well is to make sure that your there's no tangents and that things fit naturally where they're supposed to fit. I know, sounds easier said than done. But and then the other thing I believe was just like, yeah, tangents. So just making sure things fit where they need to fit, and that your text and the images don't clash with one another. That when you do a design, the images and the text should work with one another, and that it shouldn't feel like it's a last ditch effort to just have something there. Um, and composition, just make sure that things are clear, and then also that your storytelling and the image is, you're able to kind of convey some part of the story in your drawing when you're doing a cover. um yeah, at least that's kind of what I can think of off the top of my head while I'm like drawing. I know that this is not too intensive, but yeah, I mean, as always, like, these videos will go on to VOD afterwards, so if you feel like you missed something, or if you guys missed a certain portion of what I was talking about because, like, let's say you showed up late or something, don't worry, the VODs always go up a little bit after the stream ends, so you can always catch up on it afterwards. Hmm. That's a bit. Don't feel sorry for them. Yeah, yeah. The tangent is starting to make me feel bad for tangents. Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I was just like, oh, it's missing a little bit of something, but we'll kind of play around with it, see what we come up with. But yeah, just kind of trying to keep it simple, nothing over the top or crazy. The only downside is that sometimes when you start doing these dark and shadow kind of aspects to it, you start realizing like what is maybe a little bit off with your drawing as a whole. And so sometimes I'm like hesitant, I would say, to go ahead with these shadow drawings, because it's like, oh, I messed up over there, or that proportion over there doesn't really make much sense. And yeah, but just kind of go with it for now. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily like it or not, or maybe it's just this part. Might have to make it darker. Yeah, maybe we'll just make it a bit darker. There. I think that's pretty good. And maybe we can bring this up a little bit. Oh, whoops. Yeah. Comic book cover. Yeah. I might kind of just play around and fix the, just add a little bit more line work texture to things. But with like maybe slightly old school hatching. Maybe we'll keep a little bit of the red in there. I kind of like it. Almost feels like like it's glowing from the underdrawing a little bit. So maybe I'll keep that. Kind of makes it like a drawing board aspect of it, even. So for me, like book covers, it's a combination of a little bit of everything, and that's kind of what I love about it. Is sorry, give me a sec. It's a kind of like you want to balance a bit of it being like an illustration, but then also understanding that it's supposed to also be kind of like a text, and there's a bit of a balance of information, and so that's what I like about it. And you have a little bit of freedom to approach it, not exactly however you want, but there's an opportunity to play around with the limitations. So there might be some things illustration wise where it's just like, that wouldn't really make much sense. But in the realm of book design, book cover design, what's awesome about it is that there's a little bit of brevity to experiment and try things out that I really, really love. And experiment a little bit. That looks pretty good. Kind of like an old school pulp kind of cover. Oh, cool. Nice. Awesome. Glad you were able to finish your like animation. Yeah, because I think with sometimes with illustration, or no, not illustration, but like character designs, there's almost a need to make sure that like it all makes sense, like the characters' proportions and everything. But the awesome thing about illustration, especially like book illustrations, cover illustrations that I've always really loved, is that it's there's a chance to kind of elevate it to being more than just a drawing, and I think that's like has always been like the really cool part of illustration, and especially book cover illustration. You have a chance to almost like experiment and try things out and see if something could work, if you could push it something to be more. But yeah, I always thought it was illustration has always been kind of neat because you have a chance to experiment. Yeah, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of effects here, just some cast shadows, but not too much. I don't want to go too over the top with the lighting or the shadows or anything like that. Just kind of want to keep it kind of vague and just only suggested, slightly suggested, kind of have this slight painterly look to it, but not too much. But also still keeping it in line with like the way the face might look. And then this one, maybe we'll do like a screen effect. We'll go for just a slightly brighter blue, maybe more turquoisey. Let's try turquoise. Let's go for more green. More grayed down. Maybe I have to just lower the brush size a little bit. I kind of want to almost make it feel like a chalk drawing. It was kind of my intention with this. It's like, oh, I want it to feel like it's a chalk drawing on a drawing board, kind of like Dr. Frankenstein is experimenting and trying to figure out like how to go about this piece or this image here. So just like slight implications of like form and dimension, but not too much. I don't want to go too crazy with it. For the sake of animation, I feel like you could always do a little bit of both. I don't think it's necessarily exclusive. I think a good part of like learning how to draw can also feed into the way you animate and the way you approach kind of like figures and poses and things like that. I think all those things kind of end up feeding into each other and being a part of one another. So I don't think it's necessarily like exclusive, let's just say. But ultimately, definitely like up to you. Yeah, nah. Hey. I'll say it's only 1:30. Nice. We got a good amount of time left. What who needs the to advertisement of Bambus? Hey, nice. Is am I completing it on time? Fingers crossed. Don't know just yet. I feel like, sometimes you can get caught up in the line work aspect of things. Kind of I want to experiment a little bit with some of the shapes in the line works here. I feel like that looks kind of cool, kind of neat. Everything's kind of glowing and ethereal feeling in a sense, which is kind of what I wanted for this piece. I wanted it to feel like it's not, it's a little ethereal, it's a little kind of the sense of discovery when Dr. Frankenstein finally discovers how to create monsters, but at the same time also stumble on and discover something that he's too afraid of and doesn't understand how to treat. And so, which is kind of like the story of Frankenstein. So this is kind of what I was also talking about with the difference between character design and kind of the stuff that I usually do for you guys on stream. Uh, with character design, there's a little bit more of an emphasis and focus on like having, um, let's see, having a bit of a emphasis and focus on like structure and character design and all that kind of stuff. In book illustration, though, that stuff is still there and it's still kind of important, but it's almost secondary. At its core, what you want to almost have a more of an emphasis on is actually on the design and the feel and look of the characters. So less so on like anatomy and structure and whether things look really, really like proper and clean, but the intention is really more like, oh, does this feel like it has a story to tell? Is there something kind of interesting that's being said here? And so you can always play around with the limits and the kind of proportions and structures of things, and not necessarily have it make sense, because that's not the goal. The goal is not necessarily to have a very realistic drawing, but the goal is to be like, oh, what happens if I play around with the composition here? Or what if I play around with the design and the anatomy here to capture a certain kind of storytelling that I can't do if I were to keep it really realistic? So that's kind of the goal that I'm trying to do here, is like not necessarily be like, oh, let's see how anatomically correct I can get the monster to be, but be like, oh, what if I make and play around with the design and the lighting and the colors and the textures that I'm getting around here. So I guess I'm really leaning into this neon color scheme. It wasn't the initial goal, but then as I'm leaning into it more and more, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Kind of like this. Kind of like this texture and approach and this kind of haziness that's there. Quite like it. And I think this adds a little bit of depth to the drawing, a little bit more than where it was initially. And since we got a lot of time, I can really actually have a chance to just play around with the line work, with the structure, play around with the texture of things, and kind of experiment with the overall feel and look of this piece. Don't want to get too carried away, though. I think that's kind of like something that always happens both in my personal drawings and the pieces that I've done for stream, is like sometimes you get a little bit carried away with the level of detail. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream. As always, you know, if you're enjoying the stream and you're enjoying the content here, yeah, make people feel more than they see. That's awesome way of putting it. But yeah, if you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to drop a like. And as always, like, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We always are doing these streams every week, like we said. Obviously, there's the new kind of channel structure that's happening here with the change in schedule for Mondays. So usually beforehand we used to have our streams around Mondays at 9, but now we're kind of playing around with having an earlier time for those who maybe are at a different time zone than us. And so yeah, if you're like, oh, you know, I've always wanted to watch your streams, now you can. So Monday ones are gonna be at um 12 o'clock Eastern time for now, for the foreseeable future. And if you're able to make it, that's awesome. And then we also stream on Saturdays at 3 p.m. as well. So if you can't make the Mondays one, but you're like, oh, I can make the Saturday ones, those are when that's the time frame of when we stream on Monday as well. So yeah, whichever one you can make, we're always glad to have you guys show up and show support for whatever stream it is that we're doing. And yeah. But yeah, the what Vin said I think is like a great way of putting it, which is that with book illustration and these more illustrative pieces, the intention is more of like getting people to feel something with the colors, with the composition, with the tone, and not necessarily be like, oh, but was it realistic? Because ultimately that kind of stuff is more just personal preference and how you want to convey the story that you're trying to tell. And I think that's the difference between illustration and character design. Character design, you're just kind of designing a piece of the bigger whole, kind of just like a gear piece in a way, whereas with illustration, you're trying to capture a feeling, a sense in that like one moment that you're drawing, and and yeah, whatever means you need to convey that feeling and that texture, try to find a way to do it. Okay, I realized that even though I had a lot of time, I totally forgot that I need to do the text. So we'll do the text really quickly. Nothing like a Josh stream than forgetting about another crucial part. Okay, this one I will keep it fairly straightforward. Again, I think I kind of want to keep it almost like a hand-drawn feel to the text, so still giving it that gothic vibe. And if you're wondering, is like, oh, how are you keep giving it a gothic vibe? What are the like components that make it feel gothic? It's kind of like the little tails that are there on the letterings and how they're kind of like sharp and how they kind of like poke out. But then also some gothic lettering approaches and typeface designs is to have very thick kind of bodies for the letters and then have these really sharp points and tails around the ends of the letters. Oh, hey, look at that. Kevin showed up. Nice. I'm not gonna lie, Kevin. When I looked at the stream, what was it like? What I had to do for stream? I was like not too sure because I was like, wait, I'm supposed to draw. I have to draw a cover and an album cover at the same time. I was like, wait, what? How am I supposed to do that? But I think this turned out pretty well. But yeah, so I try to find some kind of connection between the two. But yeah, this turned out. I'm also kind of surprised with how this turned out. Believe it or not, guys. Sometimes it's like, oh, let's see what happens if we do this, and sometimes they turn out I don't know. It's like a surprise. It's like, oh, cool. It worked out. Everyone on their best behavior, so Kevin thinks I did a good job. Okay, bye, Bambus. I don't know if you're gone now, but thank you for joining. Yeah, well, I guess we have a few minutes left in regards to typeface design. If anybody's like interested in it, it's all about like consistency. So I would say like for me when I was designing this typeface in the moment, I know that I've only been working on this piece for a short bit, but it's kind of like consistency in the shapes that you're using. Actually, this is
very similar. There's very similar traits to typeface design that the mentality is very similar to that in character design. So it's kind of trying to find a style and sticking to the style. So usually the first thing that you can kind of think of is, when it comes to art styles for typeface designs, is the serif versus sans serif. So if you've ever always kind of like, oh, why are there some text called serifs or sans serifs? Serifs are basically just like the little tails that you see on letters. So these little tails over here, these are what we would call serifs. And then sans serif, sans just means without. So it's just lettering without the tails, essentially. That's it. But by just kind of deciding whether your lettering has tails or whether it doesn't have tails, already does a lot of the heavy lifting already in terms of figuring out how you want to draw your letters. So in this regards, I'm kind of just going like, okay, I'm gonna have serifs, and now I have to decide like, how do I want the tails to sit on the letters? How are the tails coming out of the letters? And because we're going for a more gothic vibe, I'm going for these thick body kind of letters. I'm also kind of slanting. You'll notice that the character traits that I'm adding for the letters is that I'm slanting the words and the letters themselves. They're not perfectly straight. There's a little bit of an angling with the letters and everything. As he does about shoes. No way. No, I do not. I am not an expert on lettering. But it's because I took a class and then I was like, oh, this is actually really, really cool. Typeface design is like fascinating. Um, but yeah, when you guys are coming up with letter design, just kind of think of a consistency and a style, and then you just have to apply that shape language and that the rules that you gave yourself and apply to every letter. So I'm like, okay, the sans serifs are gonna kind of tail and curve like this. Oh, the thickness of the body of the letters, they're all going to be like this. So it has to be consistent. Now, obviously, there's other rules that go along with that as well. So if you ever decide to dive into typeface design, one of the first things you'll learn is that the letter S is one of the hardest letters to kind of figure out, just due to the curve and the weight that you want for the letter S. Also, right now I'm having a hard time figuring out how the K should look as well. Like, how wide should the K be? How high is this upper branch part of the K? Should it be lower? Maybe it should be lower. I'm thinking about it now, it should be lower. So I'm going to lower it. And we'll have it be similar to the letter, actually. We'll have it be very thin around here, or at least a little bit thinner. So again, you can see that I'm using like how I'm approaching the lettering and like how I'm kind of approaching the different characteristics of letters, and I'm using that to guide the decisions on how I go about designing the letter and making sure that it feels consistent to the letter shapes and forms that I've been kind of doing for the other characters. Now, because I'm designing this letter on the spot, expert typeface designers are probably going to be like, nope, you're inconsistent here, or like this shape here doesn't really make much sense for the letter. But if anybody is thinking about doing character design or letter designs, these are things that I'm considering. It's kind of the line weight, the apertures. So apertures are the empty spaces in between letters. You want to make sure that they're kind of consistent. And in this case, I was like, okay, I want them to be very narrow and very thin. And then all the letters are going to also be angling upwards. So there's a slight slant to each of the letters that you'll notice, that like the letter R, the N, the K, the A, they're all like not perfectly square like. They kind of lean one way or the other. So there's a certain kind of flow to them. Now E is going to be a little tricky because it is angled and it's a round letter. Round letters are hard, is what you'll kind of realize. Now, if you're not too particular about typeface design, you'll be like, oh, Josh, this is so easy. Like, what, everything that you said, it was like no big deal. Well, it's I feel like it's only a big deal if you understand where typeface rules come from. If you don't understand where it comes from, then yeah, typeface is going to feel very kind of straightforward and pretty easy to do. But there's a lot of quote-unquote rules, just like with anything when it comes to art. Just like how drawing faces, the reason why certain faces might look a little bit odd or the proportions feel odd is maybe because like you broke certain rules, but you don't know why those rules were broken or how you broke them. And in letter design and typeface design, it's kind of the same thing. There are kind of rules with like the weight of the letters, how big those letters should be or need to be. The spacing between each letters is also a big component in typeface design. But yeah, so that's why it's typeface is like a whole thing. I love it personally. I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know that some people are like, ew, typeface design, it's so boring. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think it's really cool. You know, we're gonna cheat and we're just gonna copy and paste because I'm like, it's the same letter. I do not need to change anything. We're gonna put it like right here. I'm doing the watching. Oh, hello, hello. I see that we have some new people joining in. That's awesome. Hello, glad you guys are able to join. Just kind of finishing up the letters here for our Frankenstein book cover. And then once we're done the letters, I might actually go a bit over time. We celebrated a little bit too early, unfortunately. I thought I was going to finish early, but alas, it ain't a Josh stream unless I end up not keeping a good track of time, and we're going to go over a little bit. But it's not going to be too long, because all I have to do is just kind of take the letters or take the design and add it to the album cover. Oh, and you can see here why S is one of the hardest letters to design, because the sense of weight is all over the place. It's fluctuating constantly. So you can't just go like, oh, I'm just going to draw the letter S, but it's like, how do you balance the upper portion with the lower portion of the S? And then like the spacing in between the lower half and the upper half, like the aperture over here and the aperture down here, the spacing in between the S, the bodies of the S, also plays a big role in like how these letters are, how the letter is perceived. And then also the balance of it, like, is it teetering over a little bit too much? Do I need to push it over to the right, to the left? Like, all these things are a contributing factor to how the letter S is designed. So it's a really tricky one that a lot of typeface designers end up usually putting a lot of time in figuring out and making sure that it's well balanced, because a well balanced S is really hard to come by, surprisingly. And not everybody can do it when they come up with the design for the letter S, but when you do, it's really cool and it's very satisfying. So I don't think I solved the whole letter S issue, but I think I did a okay job of it. We're gonna slant it up actually. There we go. Nice. We love our Josh streams. Oh, thank you, thank you. Let's see. I have a question. Okay, cool. When someone tells you to do something else to build your portfolio, something other than character fan arts, then how can I start on that if I want to make a illustration portfolio? Other than character fan arts. Well, I think the biggest direction that you can take is to design your own creations, design your own characters and submit those instead of fan art pieces. If your drawing skills are already there, then you have the ability to come up with your own characters, and you can always start off with something simple. I think the easiest way is to just kind of start designing your own world, designing your own characters. Now, I know that there's the whole discussion when it comes to like portfolios of like not doing like anime. I don't know what the perception or the take on that is now. Like, I don't know if it's changed or anything, but I remember that it was still a thing even when students were applying. So what I would say to that is, like, if a portfolio instructor or portfolio kind of reviewer tells you like, hey, don't do anime, I wouldn't say to not necessarily ignore it, but do keep it in mind when you're submitting your piece. that they might be a little bit pickier if you do decide to go for an anime route. With that being said, though, drawing and when coming up with your character designs, a big part of that is drawing what you like. So, you know, if you like anime, you can I think it's okay if you have a few pieces that are anime, but also try to add other stuff in it as well. Try to experiment with different art styles, try to experiment with different approaches, and see where you can go from there. Because yeah, unfortunately, if you want to apply to a school, you do have to kind of, in a way, abide by the rules that they have. But yeah, I think original characters is kind of like the best way to start. Start with something that you like, start with a topic or a genre or theme that you enjoy drawing. So if you love horror, try to put your own spin of horror into the characters that you design. Ultimately, when you're doing character design, you're coming up with a world and you're coming up with a story. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind when you are coming up with your characters, and try to tell a story ultimately. That's kind of what they're looking for as well. When you are submitting a piece and they're taking a look at your pieces of work, they're trying to see what kind of story you're telling. Not necessarily like a full-on story, but just like, what is your voice? What is your perspective on things? And what do you have to, in a way, it sounds kind of harsh, but what do you have to contribute to the world of the world of art? Now, obviously, there are people who are, you know, like, I don't know, like they're like pushing the envelope of what is art, and then you have people who are doing things who are just like, oh, I've always been inspired by, I don't know, let's say like Star Wars, so I've always wanted to do sci-fi opera, and so that's totally fine. Is it necessarily pushing the envelope if you do that? I don't think so, but I don't think there's anything wrong in drawing what you love and what got you into drawing in the first place. Yeah. Let's see. Just no anime can be fine. Just no fan art. Yeah, I think overall, like, keep an eye on what the school says, because I think every school has a different stance on those things, and they usually make it pretty clear from the beginning. So yeah, like what Kevin is saying, always do research, because you never know, and it's always a good idea to just kind of, you know, do a little bit of research so you can see what the school's stance on things are, because every school is different, and I think like every year things maybe change every now and then. So I don't know, maybe a school that was like a little bit against manga or anime might all of a sudden have their opinions change, and we're like, no, we're actually okay with it now. So I don't know, you never know. Okay, so I'm going to just shrink this down a little bit, and I'm going to make the F bigger. I want that nice classic pulp illustration style. The nice solid huge letter. Yeah. Like maybe like that. I think that's a good spot. Might have to shrink it down a little bit more. Right there. I feel like that's pretty good. Let's see. Erase this. Does that work? Nah. But hopefully that answers a little bit of your question, because I know that portfolio. I also think like portfolio expectations have changed over the years. I don't know how much they've changed, but I feel like sometimes things evolve and things kind of adjust over time. Now, I would say that I'm always from the perspective that I understand, honestly, where that criteria comes from. I do think it's a little bit biased, though. When professors or schools go like, we don't want anime because we want original work, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's not, well, like when people draw it in a more Western style, why is that more acceptable than the anime style? So in that regards, though, it is a little bit like, it feels like there's a bit of a bias. But in honesty, though, I can kind of understand where that sentiment comes from. Okay, this was the text. Okay, let's put behind it. Let's get a bit of this color here. And oops. Yeah. Okay. We're almost done. I'm just gonna add a little bit of that glow effect. Behind the text. Make it similar to Frankenstein. Though I should say, not to say that I agree fully with what that whole stance on like anime and like portfolio submissions, but I understand where it comes from. It's an unfortunate stance because I do think it ends up kind of limiting what people end up submitting, and stifling kind of like where some artists' interests in art come from. But I understand where it comes from. As unfortunate as it is, it's understandable. Okay, cool. I guess maybe we'll kind of leave it here. Let's see. I feel like portfolios are tight considering there's like thousands of people also doing. Yeah, see, like that's where it comes from. I think is like if it was just one student or a handful of students here and there drawing, let's say the same anime manga style, then it's like it's kind of like okay, sure. But if like hundreds or thousands of students are submitting it, everybody's drawing the exact same anime style, it becomes kind of it's repetitive on the reviewers and it can be a bit tiring on the reviewers, like portfolio reviewers for schools, because then it feels like everybody isn't doing their own thing. They're just kind of drawing the same style. But yeah, it's a little bit on. I feel like the way they approach it for schools can sometimes be a bit shallow, but again, I understand where it comes from. Let's see. Oh, Josh designs a font stream. Oh my goodness, that that would be a lot. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, also I missed this question here. I really like those line works. How do you work with the line weight, line size? I think I noticed I'm slightly allergic to using thin lines. Then again, I mostly use hard brushes. Well, for one, thank you. On the other hand, let's see. How do I approach line weight? I can do that while I kind of figure out the album cover. So, line weight, I would say that depends on kind of the texture and overall look that you want. So for me, I personally really love. Hold up, give me a sec. I love a more traditional look. So I'm always using kind of textured brushes, and I'm always trying to look for brushes that can have a little bit of softness and feathering to it. So I find that like with feathered textured brushes, it's a little bit easier to kind of create in a way like easier to control your line weight. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's like it solves all your problems when it comes to the line weight, but I do think that it kind of helps a little bit. So that's like how I go about doing line weight and kind of having pieces that match with that. Actually, maybe I'll answer after I transfer this, because I can't think and figure out how to transfer this while I'm talking. Okay, I'm gonna also copy this. So the reason why I'm gonna spend some time transferring it is because remember, like how I said, transferring something is not a one-to-one. So just because the book, the composition fit and worked as a book, might not mean that it necessarily works perfectly for the audiobook. So I'm just gonna try to figure that out. And then this is the text. Yeah, we'll put this together as the oh. Yeah, put this as the title. Whoops. Title. And we will move it over here. Nice. That looks pretty good. I guess like for this one I can make it bigger. Wait. Oops. Forgot to duplicate it. Okay, and I'm gonna label this as book. And this one, let's move it over. Nice. This one, I guess I could make it a little bit bigger. Well, we'll see. So, like I said, you want to make sure that the title, you want to make sure that the illustration works for both. So, let me see what I can deal with. This makes it a little bit trickier. I realized to transfer, because there's a lot of things I would need to transfer. Let me see. Border, I think I could probably take the border out. Effects, lines, pink. You know what? This I'll put in here. I think that's everything. So I'm gonna duplicate it. We'll just give it a shot. We'll see how it works, how it looks. I might have to finagle it a little bit on my own time. Because I think I'm gonna have to like shift things around or just save it as an image and then export it. But yeah, maybe we'll see. You know what I'll do though, just to quickly show you guys how it might look. We'll do just quickly. Oh. There we go. Cheating a little bit. Not filled. Then we'll put this like here. I feel like that kind of works. And then maybe, let me see, might move this down a little bit. Maybe somewhere like here. Actually, maybe we'll shrink it down a little. Put it like here. Okay, there we go. I think that's not too bad. It's not perfect, but I think it kind of works a little bit. But yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me see. Okay, let me try to answer a few of the questions first. So you had one about line weight. Yeah, so personally, for myself, I like using textured, traditional kind of lines because it just feels a little bit more natural. There's a certain kind of softness and feathering with kind of textured lines that I think capture nuance in line work a little bit better. What I've noticed is sometimes when you draw with more digital hard brushes, you can kind of see a bit of the shakiness a little bit more. So it depends on what you like. So if you like that more shaky, traditional, or not traditional, that more inky feel, then I would say that you can go with a hard brush. And then line weight is honestly all just styles. So the best way to kind of discover and figure out how you like to approach line weight is to experiment. Do some portrait studies, do kind of some pen studies with traditional pens, do it with ink, do it with a marker, and see how far you can push the lines and your observation and uses of lines. Play around with like pencil crayons, play around with pencils. because then what you'll kind of discover is like how to control the pen. You'll figure out how to control your drawing medium and what line weight you like playing around with. So you're like, oh, you feel allergic to really thin lines? Well, try thin lines and see how well it works. And I would say this goes for everybody as well. Is like, if you feel like it looks bad in the first attempt, don't give up right away. Give it a few tries. Take a look. Try to observe different artists that have different art styles and different line weights and see how they go about using line weight and line tools, and see if you can kind of not exactly copy them, but transfer some of their drawing philosophy and ideology into your drawing approach. So that's kind of what I do myself. Oh man, I forgot his name. Katsuya Terada is a really great line artist that I kind of used a little bit of inspiration for this one. Yoji Shinkawa is also another really great one when it comes to line art and paintings. And obviously there's James Jean is a great illustration as well. So take a look at not just character designers and artists that you already like, but try to expand your knowledge and your takes on other artists and how they approach line work and line weights, because everybody's going to do it a little bit differently, and the best way to learn and observe how other people do it is to expand your horizons of like different artists and things like that. So that's what I would do personally. Okay, let's see what else. A font stream I think would be kind of fun. I feel like I would just do something like this, Kevin, if I were to ever do a font stream, something similar to this. Let's see. I saw that there was another question. So you go like, wait, so being unique on what you as an individual artist can bring to the table. Anime is fine, but doing more styles and range of pieces is better. Yeah, I think that's always like a good way to approach it, is that portfolio reviewers will always appreciate that you have more than one quote-unquote style. Think about it more of like different illustrators, especially illustrators who are in the industry, they're able to sometimes adapt their style to better match the project that they are working on. So sometimes if it requires more realistic style, then they can kind of bend their approach to be more anatomically proportional or correct. If they're doing something a little bit goofier, then they might approach things with a little bit of a different line weight or approach to colors. So having different styles is always going to be a benefit, and it's always going to be a tool that allows you to stand out more than doing the same thing as everybody else. Whereas with character designing in particular, it's a little bit different, because character design, you need a certain kind of consistency, or you need to show that you can maintain a style because you need it for animation, especially like 2D animation. But with illustration, if you're going to illustration in particular, then having multiple styles is a skill set, not necessarily, it doesn't make it look like you don't have the ability to draw. It instead makes it look like you have the ability to expand your drawing abilities. I know I use the word ability a lot, but hopefully it gets it across. Let's see. So this is about just my own style. When I see other artists like me doing the whole process of making a piece, they usually take 1 to 2 days, but when I try to say that, it usually takes me a week. And that's totally fine. Yeah, just like Kevin is saying, practicing getting faster and making less mistakes. Practice makes you get faster. I think it's funny because I've been kind of talking to a lot of students about this when it comes to speed. Speed is more of like a passive skill that you just develop over time. Drawing faster, you can technically aim for it. You can actively try to draw faster, but drawing faster is the result of being knowledgeable, having good understanding of drawing capabilities, drawing shapes and drawing anatomy, let's say, and facial structures. Once you get more familiar with it and you're better at it, it's always easier to draw faster once you become more knowledgeable and more comfortable with drawing those things. But yeah, sometimes if you want to chat, I guess YouTube or Discord is a good way to chime in on that. We have like members chats where we can always go into it a little bit more, because I know we're a little bit over time, but yeah. Not control Zing too much to commit the lines you practice. Yeah, that's why I always encourage students to do like pen drawings traditionally, because it forces you to have to be you have to be more careful with your observations. You have to be more intent with your decisions and your line making. But yeah, either way, neither here nor there. I realized I forgot to write Mary Shelley, so I'll write it after the stream. But thank you everybody for joining the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, remember, if you enjoy the stream, remember to like it. And if you're not subscribed, remember to subscribe so you are notified of when we go live next. And yeah, I'm just gonna close off with the closing statements, and that'll be it for stream. So if you're just catching the end of this, my name is Josh, and I was the host for today's stream, and we did a book cover and also showed you how like transitioning a book cover to an album cover is kind of similar, but there's a few things you have to keep in mind when you're designing the album and the covers. So if you kind of missed out on that, no worries. We do have the VOD going up afterwards, so you can kind of watch a little bit of the beginning portion. That's kind of where I discuss a little bit of things to keep in mind when you're doing cover designs. But with that being said, that's the end of stream, and yeah, here's just the closing words so you guys know who we are. If this is your first time, we are Wing Canvas, and at Wing Canvas, it is our mission to make art education easily accessible to everybody. And so join us for free live stream lessons on YouTube every week and level up your skills with our community of art nerds. We're more than just a YouTube channel. We're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping artists turn their passion into income. And a huge thank you to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you'd like to dive deeper, join our Discord and our other social media platforms. Discord will give you access to stream notes, demos, exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So come and connect with fellow art nerds and get inspired. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream and you enjoyed everything that we kind of drew here. As always, I will be posting this later on our Discord on the live stream channel. So if you want to take a look at it, that's where it will be posted afterwards. So yeah, again, thank you everybody for joining the stream. Hope you enjoyed this one. Have a good rest of the day and have a good rest of the week. And I'll see you all next time. Oh, wait, actually, before we close, let's see, what is the next stream? Just so that you guys know what's coming up. On Saturday, Iggy is going to be doing iconic anime facial features for beginners. Oh, that sounds pretty good. That's nice. Oh, and then I'm up again. Wow, look at that. Oh, it's because, right. I'm up on Monday, again, November 10th, for Color Theory in Character Design. Ooh, so that's cool. It's going to be nice. That's going to be fascinating to do. But yeah, those are the two next streams coming up. Again, hope you guys enjoy this one, and I will see you all later. Have a good rest of the day or night. Bye-bye.